So let's actually start. Hello, Krista.
Sure.
How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good. So Krista is an incredible illustrator, but I will let you do the introductions.
Okay. I'm Krista Perry. I'm an artist and illustrator based in Massachusetts. I graduated from MassArt in 2015 with an honors BFA in illustration. And since then, I've been working on a lot of licensing projects, but also kind of breaking into the world of advertisement, which is great.
Hmm.
I haven't really done much of that yet, but most of my work centers around like greeting cards and patterns and like wrapping papers and stuff like that. So,
Her stuff is so freaking cool, you guys. Like every single thing she makes, I just die laughing. Oh my God. Like what is it? The steak wrapping paper? Incredible.
yes.
Iconic.
I was actually terrified to present the sketch for that. So with Red Cap Cards, I started working with them around like 2017, and it was kind of like the first time I was dipping my toe into like really showing like my sense of humor and like interest in art. So I was very nervous because it was my first big client. I've had a couple others that were kind of big deals, but I felt like Red Cap was really like the first opportunity that I had to kind of like really show who I am. If that
Yeah.
makes sense. They're a fantastic company to work with, and um, they're not they're not super art directy, which is awesome. So yeah, one of my first wrapping papers with them was a raw meat like repeat wrapping paper called Love Me Tender. Um, and it's been like one of my, I don't know if it's a bestseller, but it's definitely like gotten a lot of people's attention. So
It's a hot
it's been
ticket
awesome.
item.
Yes, yes.
I freaking love it. Oh my God. You're like working with this incredible new big client and you're like, here's some steak. I hope you like this.
Yes. So I don't know. I kind of like I definitely was like more afraid in school to pass in sketches just because like immediate judgment of like your peers and stuff. And you want to like make sure you're putting the right thing on the wall. And I don't know. It was like there was a lot of anxiety about that. But I think when you start to like find clients that like jive really well with your work,
Hmm.
it becomes a lot easier to um, feel like certain things are appropriate because you I mean, maybe you're a little uncomfortable, but like you think that maybe like it would be, a pattern or something that they would be interested in turning into a wrapping paper. So
Yeah. You might as well take that shot. Like if they like you, give them you.
yeah, I also have another greeting card, and it's like this really cute little 60s kind of kitten sitting in front of a cake, and it just says another year closer to the grave, and it's my best-selling card. Which again, another sketch that I didn't want to send in because I was just so scared that like my sense of humor wouldn't be taken very well. And like,
Mhm.
I also think that like since that card has come out, like darker humor has been a more popular thing
Yeah.
to include in like in greeting cards and things like that. So
You
you always have to take that chance.
you found your niche and everyone's grateful for it. Oh my God.
Took a little while, but you know, I feel content now. I'm happy.
That's that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we go off on more tangents, even though I love them, let's bring it back to like pre 2015. So when you were in high school, what was kind of like your vision for the future? What did you think your career was going to be, school, things like that?
Um I mean when I entered high school as a freshman, I was definitely like breaching that I'm really interested in art kind of discovery,
Mhm.
but I didn't really think that it could be a career. I always just thought it was like my favorite class and like
Mm.
I was good at it and that was really it. Um and then when I got into high school, I took my first art class and I really liked it and I felt like I was excelling in it. And I think I don't really remember all that much about high school, but I think that at one point my art teacher had someone from Montserrat, I think, which is
Oh,
based in Beverly,
yes, yes, yes.
Massachusetts. I think my art teacher had someone come in from there, and then I was like, wait, you can study this like in college? Like,
This is the thing.
okay. And I don't even actually remember what they majored in, but I remember being just like really excited about the idea of like it not just being a hobby and kind of like going beyond that.
Mhm.
Um, so I think like my vision of like what I could be as an artist was like pretty blurred. Like I really like had no idea, but I definitely like once that person came in to talk about college, like art at a college level, I definitely like took it more seriously and took as many art classes as I could in high school. Um, and I think actually one semester of my senior year, I think it was like mostly art classes because I got like all my like prerequisites out of the way so I could just kind of focus on that.
Nice.
Um, and I ended up only applying to two schools. I applied to Mass Art and Montserrat.
Oh my
Um,
God.
yeah, mainly because I went to a portfolio review thing in Boston,
Mhm.
and there was a line for Rhode Island School of Design that was like super long, and I
Right.
always thought like the more prestigious the better. Like I always thought like um I don't know, I always just thought that like it's expensive so it must be good, and like there's a really long line so it must be good. And
Yes.
like looking back, I definitely like I'm glad I didn't even bother applying because um
A
I pretty
lot.
much had my ass handed to me when my stuff was reviewed.
Oh,
So I didn't even
oh.
bother. I didn't even bother applying. And of course, like back in high school, I wasn't making a lot of money, and I was trying to like apply to as little as possible because I didn't have all that application money
Oh my
that you
God.
need.
Can we talk about that? Oh my
It's
God.
wild. It's
Oh,
wild that that's even a thing.
people in my high school were like, yeah, I applied to 12 places. And I'm like, 12? How much money is that? You're only going to
That's a
one.
lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like maybe 5 could be the most, but still a
Yeah.
lot. Um, but so I ended up getting into both schools, and then I ultimately decided that Mass Art would be my choice because Montserrat had like a very small amount of students, and
Uh,
my high school, I think, I my graduating high school class was about 73 kids, so I
mm,
didn't want to repeat a small high school
mhm,
experience with college. Um, so then I ended up deciding to go to Mass Art, um, and I did not plan on studying illustration. I wanted to be a photographer.
oh
Um,
shit. Oh, plot
yeah,
twist.
I know, it's kind of weird, right? It's a bit off from what you would expect.
So
But
sorry, but I can't picture you as a photographer at all.
I
But
know, I know. I definitely think I picked the right course of action.
yes.
Um, but so in high school, I did a lot of kids' senior portraits. As I would graduate, I would come back and do more like portraits for like the next coming grade.
Mhm.
So that was kind of where my interest in photography like was. I really like doing portraits and stuff like that. But
Mm.
um, fast forward to like finally starting Mass Art, the freshman foundation year, where you're kind of doing a little bit of everything.
Mhm.
All of the projects that we were given like free reign on, I would like do very illustrative based projects. So that's kind of like where I was finding that I was having the most fun, like the most success, and like I just felt like I was like making art that like I enjoyed. So
Nice.
then I decided like I'm gonna study illustration. Um, and I I don't think I really hesitated. I think it was just like they had us like all in the auditorium, and like they gave us a presentation on each major,
Mhm.
and I knew illustration was like kind of what I wanted to do, but I thought painting sounded interesting, but it didn't
Mhm.
seem like it was as structured. So I
Mhm.
kind of decided to do illustration because a lot of the artists that I was into were illustrators. So it made sense because it was a lot of like in my spare time, illustration was a lot of the stuff that I was like kind of looking at for inspiration.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah.
Wow. Okay. I was not expecting these plot twists. I thought
I
for sure
know.
that you would come in and you were like, illustration, baby, let's go. And then just kind of went off for there. But that's awesome.
Hmm.
So, okay. So you graduated in 2015. Did anything else notable
Yes.
happen while you were at school?
Let's see. I I definitely struggled I don't remember exactly when illustration even started. I think it was maybe second semester. No, because it starts sophomore year, doesn't it?
I believe
I
so,
think.
but I
Yeah.
transferred. So
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah,
yes.
I think so. I think the first full year is all like foundation stuff. So you just
Yeah.
experiment all year.
Mhm.
And then sophomore year, when I finally started with illustration, I was really nervous. And of course, there's like the kids that are like the superstars of your classes, and you're feeling like really intimidated when you put your work up. And because at that point, I really hadn't found like my style. I definitely had a style, but I didn't know how to like bring that into completed like assignments.
Mm.
Um, and then I think junior year, Scott Bacall brought his sketchbooks in.
Mm.
And I was like, wait, you can do these things in a sketchbook? Because I always thought sketchbooks were like strictly for like thumbnailing
Mm.
and like no color and no paint and stuff like that. I always thought that they were just like a boring thing that like
Yeah. A
has
notebook
to feel
practically.
painful. Right.
Painful.
Yeah, I hated it. I literally hated like the planning of a project.
Mhm.
I hated sketching. I hated like doing composition work. I hated all of that stuff, but I think it's because I didn't then know how I like to draw. So
Mhm.
I think that that was like where the struggle was coming from. But anyway, so Scott Bacall brought his sketchbooks in junior year, I think, and he has these amazing moleskin journals where
Oh yeah.
he puts like all of his like extra paint in it when he's like working on a painting instead of like throwing the paint away. He kind of like just spreads it inside of his sketchbook. And
Mhm.
I just thought that was so brilliant. And I thought it was so cool that like you can really like there's no rules to it. And
Yeah.
here I was thinking like it had to be a certain way.
Mhm.
So when he brought those in, it really like opened my eyes to um, like you can really do anything, and you know then it'll help you develop your style and like figure out what colors you like, figure out what tools you like, and
Mhm.
how you like to draw and stuff like that. Um, so that was definitely a pivotal moment for me, like during my time at Mass Art.
Mhm.
Um, and then, of course, as I became more comfortable with filling my sketchbook, it was like starting to come out into my actual work,
Right.
which really only came out, I would say, senior year, because then by then it's like it's less of like given projects that I kind of found boring at times and more of like self-directed work, which I really liked,
Mhm.
because I was starting to have like an interest in the 60s, and I was starting to have an interest in like repeating patterns and all that kind of stuff. And one thing I forgot to mention back when we were talking about the high school stuff,
Oh yeah.
um, I definitely thought that if your career is artist, like you had to work for a company. I never knew that
Ah,
like freelance was a thing. Like I never knew that like you could kind of like bounce around and do like a ton of different things.
be your own
Um,
boss.
exactly. So around senior year is when I found out. Well, I mean, I definitely knew, but like around senior year is like when I started to think about freelance as a career, and what that would mean and stuff like that. Because um, it was really tough for me to see myself working at a company, because I felt like my work was just so um, it's so like I feel like my personality and my work are the package, and it's
Yes.
tough to kind of like it's tough for me to I hate to say, it's tough for me to tone myself down and sort of fit a mold, if that makes sense. Like I feel like
Mhm.
my work is what it is, and that's that.
Yes.
um so when I ended up graduating
Mhm.
Mass Art, I applied to a couple jobs that were like centered around illustration and graphic design and stuff like that.
Mm,
And I actually was turned down by each job that I applied for. And
mm,
I really thought that that was like, that meant that I wasn't going to make it, or,
yes.
I thought that that was like the end all be all. And I was really upset by that. But then I kind of like, I turned it around and like just focused on rebuilding my portfolio.
Mm.
Um, so all through high school and through college also, for like 7 years, I worked at a grocery store in my hometown. And it was
Vibes.
like, I don't know if you've ever worked at one, but it's absolute hell.
Oh.
Not only do you not get paid very well, but like you're treated like scum, and like it's grueling work. But so I took the job turn downs as, I'm doomed. I'm going to be working here forever. This will never happen. Like
Oh no.
I just thought like no one will ever hire me for anything.
Oh my
Um
God.
but at the same time, like I still, like, as like horrible as that sounds, I definitely still kept like my positivity, because
Mm,
I would go to work, and then I would go home and just work on replenishing my portfolio.
right.
And I decided to do this mainly because upon graduation, a lot of the work that was on my page was clearly assignment work.
I see.
And yeah, and if I was thinking, if clients are getting like hit up by multiple mass art graduates, it's going to be all the same projects like on their websites.
That makes
So
sense.
yeah, so that's kind of where I was like, I like a handful of these and they can be sprinkled throughout, but I definitely want to start building more and like figuring out, like I knew that I was interested in pattern design. I didn't necessarily know that I wanted to be a greeting card designer,
Mhm.
but I knew that like pattern design and wrapping paper and stuff like that was something I really wanted to get into. So I started learning how to make repeating patterns. Um, and then I just would start making different projects for myself that like kept me engaged. And of course I kept working on my sketchbook and stuff like that. um, and then eventually, when I felt like I was confident with how the site was looking,
Mhm.
um, I ended up sending a handful of postcards out. And so at Mass Art, when we were seniors, they had us create a set of postcards with our best work on it to
Mhm.
hand out at the end of the year, because we had guest reviewers. And of course, some of them were art directors, some of them were, in licensing and stuff like that. So it was kind of our first go at advertising ourselves
Right.
as working artists. So I took the ones that I designed at Mass Art and I sent them out. And I actually sent a package out to Bando in Los Angeles.
Mm.
And they're a really cool company. They make really cute accessories and desk things, and like they have agendas and stuff.
Mm.
So I sent that out. Totally did not ever expect to hear from them. And about like 2 weeks later, I got an email from them, and they were like,
Oh.
"We loved your package. Like, thanks so much for sending it. Do you want to work with us?" And of course, this is like my first like legitimate interaction with a company, and
Yeah, and you
I
got a
was
big
I
hell
was
yes.
yes, I was extremely flattered and had no idea that they would ever respond to me.
Mhm.
I I guess I just thought that I think after having all those rejections for job interviews and stuff, kind of made me think it's going to be a lot harder than, or not maybe not harder is the word, but like it's going to be more difficult to get people's attention than I thought.
Mhm.
But I think the work really spoke for itself, and I made like a really nice package with like a handwritten letter and stuff like that, to get their attention.
Mhm.
um, I just figured like you want to give a potential client something to look at, and you want them to be so into it that they like want to go on your website and see more. So
Yes.
that's kind of like where I was with that. And so I was absolutely shocked that they responded to me. Um, but since then, it's kind of just been like a snowball effect of like, you work with Bando and then you start thinking about greeting cards. And then I reached out to Red Cap, and it's been a crazy whirlwind. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. No, you just picked up one thing and then it snowballs.
Yeah.
So if I'm not mistaken, so like after you graduated, you were not just doing artwork. I think you were working at Starbucks, correct?
Yeah. So I I went back home for a year after school ended,
Mm,
and then my mom had to sell our childhood home. So that kind of meant that I was like getting the
gotta
boot a
get
little
out.
bit, like I gotta start, living on your own. So I moved back to Boston in like I think 2017. And actually right before I moved, um, I sent a package out to Red Cap, and they messaged me like while I was at the grocery store. I actually remember like
Goes
looking
back
at
to the
it and
grocery
being
store.
like, my heart, like I felt like I was gonna have a heart attack. um but so they were like, we love your work, we love your packages, like the package that you sent us. And another company that I just had no idea was ever gonna actually respond to me. And um so I worked at the grocery store up until the end of summer 2016 or 17, I don't remember, but
Mm,
it was right before we moved to Boston. And then I quit that job, and then we moved to Boston. I did not have a job lined up. I was
mm,
really nervous about that. Um, but so when we moved to Boston, I ended up starting a job at Starbucks, which was in my local neighborhood.
mhm.
Um, and that was like just kind of like another stepping stone. I definitely didn't intend on on working there very long. It was just kind of like, this is what I'm paying the bills with while I'm
Yeah.
trying to get everything else taking off. Um, so when I moved to Boston, that's when I started my Red Cap project.
Mhm.
And I don't even remember. I think I started in the summer, and then it was actually really cool. Like they wanted to only do like maybe a dozen cards, and I ended up sending them so many sketches that we did 2 dozen. And they were like, they were so thrilled with the sketches that I sent to them. So that was really cool. And that's kind of like to my own demise. I'm always like doing more than I have to do. And I don't know, it was a nice, like, I liked doing a lot of work with them, but
Mm.
you kind of have to find that happy medium between a little bit of work and too much work.
We're just
I'm
excited. You didn't know.
yeah, I notoriously just like work myself to death, like nonchalantly. um but so while I was working at Starbucks, I was doing that whole Red Cap thing at the same time. And of course that was really difficult because a lot of my shifts were opening shifts, which start at 5 a.m.
There,
Which
literally have done those shifts. I get it.
it was horrible. It was horrible. I hated it so much. Um, but all the while, like just suffering through that, I kind of was just continuously working away and working away and working away. And then finally I finished all my cards in wrap. I think by like February I might have turned them in. Um, and then they actually were like, we want to send you to Los Angeles and we want to throw you a like a launch party. And I just was like,
Oh my God.
amazed, totally amazed. So we ended up coordinating, and I booked a flight, and we went to Los Angeles in the summer, and it was really cool. They had a party at the Social Type, which
Mm,
is this really really cool stationery shop, I believe in Silver Lake,
mm.
if I'm correct. But it was so cool. Like I had a card that came out that it's like a hot dog in like a little paper. It's like an old fashioned hot dog with, it says hot dog and mustard, and it's like in one of those cool paper trays.
Mhm.
And that was one of my cards. So they hired a hot dog cart to like be at the
Oh,
party.
yes.
I was like a little bit too nervous to eat hot dogs, but it was still really cool. It just was like very on brand for the work that I had releasing.
That's
Um,
amazing. They threw you a Krista
yeah,
Perry party.
yeah, it was really cool. So we were there for about, I think, 10 days. It was really cool. We spent half our time in Los Angeles and then the other half in the desert, which was really awesome. I've always wanted to visit there. Um,
Cool.
so it was really, really great. And then of course, when we got back, we moved to a different apartment on our own. Our previous apartment was with roommates, so it was kind of cool to like have our own space. Um, so we moved to our own apartment, and then I just kept working and really like just projects here and there were coming up for like the next year and a half.
Mhm.
And then I finally got to a point where I could not take Starbucks anymore. Um, like a previous boss that I had left, and then a new boss came, and he was quite misogynistic and didn't want to hear hints on how things work and stuff like that. So I was like, I'm not getting paid enough. I'm miserable. I hurt. I don't have any attention or like time for art. And I actually called my mom because recently my Grammy had died,
Oh,
and I knew that she had money set aside, which was kind of cool. Like my Grammy like left me money, and
oh,
I gave my mom a call, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I don't even feel like myself anymore. I just would go home and cry and like
oh
just
my
really
God.
be like upset.
Yeah, yeah.
But like just because it was like such a painful job. But so my mom actually helped me out with the money that my grandmother had left behind.
Mhm.
And that afforded me a little bit of reassurance in quitting my job cold turkey, just like,
I see.
you know what I
Okay.
mean?
Mhm.
Um, so I think I put in my 2 weeks the beginning of October, and then by mid to late October I left. And actually the same week that I left Starbucks, I got an email from an agency in New York City that was working with Jameson whiskey, and it was just, I could not believe that it was on the same week that I was leaving my toxic, shitty job.
Yeah.
I could not believe it. And it was the highest paying art job I'd ever gotten. And I just, to this day, I'm honestly kind of shocked that it happened, because it was just like, it
The
was almost like a
timing.
movie. It was so weird. Um, so I was like, okay, yes, I will do it. I thought it was a joke. I thought that it was like a spam email. Um, but then so after we talked a little bit, we agreed, and I signed the contract and started working on that.
Mhm.
Um, and that was my first advertising job, which was a little bit overwhelming, but I think since it was an advertising job and it was through an agency, it was my first job that was like extremely organized and
Mm.
everyone was on top of everything. So that really helped with like the ease of it. And I definitely was nervous when I started, but um, I actually did the whole thing on my iPad, which made it really like chill. I was really panicked about how to translate like how to have my art like be in an advertisement realm.
Mhm.
Um and it was my first like landscape piece really ever.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but like make it look cool and also make them not regret hiring me. So I don't know how I did it, but I pulled it off. And it was so cool. It was like I passed it in end of like right before Christmas of 19, and then it just came out this past Christmas.
Oh,
Um
wow.
yeah, it was really, really cool to see in person. And we found it like at a liquor store a little ways away, and it was just, I don't know, it was really, really cool. Very surreal feeling.
I was just about to
Um
say, wow.
yeah, very, very surreal. Um and then once Jameson was over, I started 2020 was weird, as I'm sure you know. It was so weird. at the beginning of the year, I had this really weird job lined up, and somebody contacted me. They needed art for like a galleria at a mall.
Okay.
Like on like when malls are in construction, they have like art on the fences and stuff. I
Right,
think it
right.
was like something in that realm.
Mhm.
And I was so excited about it. And then literally the same week that I was talking about it, like lockdown started and I never heard from them again, which is fine. I totally understand. But I was definitely like panicking a little bit.
Yeah.
Just because like I it was like it was kind of like just like no jobs were coming in. It was kind of scary, but luckily because of the Jameson thing, I had a ton of savings. So
Nice.
I could kind of just coast a little bit. Um, and then I did a couple small projects here and there in 2020. And then I started talking with Redcap again, and we decided that we wanted to do a whole new line of cards and wrap.
Mhm.
Um, Again, a ton of different ideas. I think this time I did like 30 cards
Oh my
and
God.
6 wrapping papers. It was wild. But this time I think the difference was that I didn't have a day job this time, so I could really like focus on it.
Exactly. And enjoy it.
Yeah, because I was thinking about it, and the last time I worked with them, around the same amount of work took me like 9 months versus this time it took me like 2.5. I just like pumped
Whoa.
it out. Yeah,
Holy
it
shit.
was it was very insane. Um, I started planning my Red Cap project this past October.
Mhm.
And then I knew that the art would be due around January. Um, so I started planning it. And then the same week that I was like starting to plan, I got a random email from Nickelodeon. And they're like, first of all, I was like dying when I got that email. But the next day they were like, oh, so like we need a logo for this new show. It's a SpongeBob spinoff called The Patrick Star Show. And I just like I I couldn't believe it. I like needed time to like chill because when I got the email, I was hyperventilating.
I feel you.
Like the part in SpongeBob when he doesn't have water and he's like drying up. Yeah, I just was like I don't know. It was just so wild to me because Nickelodeon had been on my like dream list for
Yeah.
like since I was like 5 and knew that you could even be an artist to like work with a company like that. Um, but so they just were like, it's pretty quick turnaround, and um, we need like the intro logo for the show, and that's what we're
Mhm.
hiring you for. And
Okay.
I was of course very very nervous at the beginning of it because it was just like very high profile for me
Yeah. No
because
pressure.
everyone knows SpongeBob, so it's just like and of course Patrick's my favorite character, so you want
So
to
I
do it
can't let
right.
him down.
Exactly. So it again it was like uh a pretty simple project because they're like a bigger company, so they're kind of like they have their technique locked
Yeah,
down
they
with
know what they're
like
doing.
yeah. um so I sent them a ton of sketches, and I think really the only tough part about that is not knowing when they were going to respond or when they were going to ask for revisions.
Mm.
Because I was just like constantly on this like loop of anxiety, being like, I hope they like it. I hope they pick it. I hope they like it. Like, because they told me that I was kind of competing for the job with an in-house designer. So
Oh,
I was
no
like,
pressure.
yeah. I was like, of course it's like a pleasure to be a part of this, but I want to be able to say like I made that logo. I don't
You
want to
did
say
it.
like I worked in the background on it. Like
Yeah.
so I was really feeling the pressure there, but um it's it's a pretty like 70s vibe show. So
Mhm.
I felt like I was like really the perfect match for that. And of course, like Patrick's a dope, just like I am. So I was like, this is absolutely the most perfect thing
Relatable
ever.
content.
Yeah. So and also in the initial email they said Herb Alpert vibes, which is he's like he's a trumpet player from the 60s. He has like these crazy like songs that sound like they'd be like in the beginning of like a game show, a really cheesy game
Okay.
show. So
Nice.
it's music that I was already listening to and like have been a huge fan of, and like it just, it felt like it really fit the vibe. So weeks later, they ended up emailing me and letting me know that the higher ups chose my logo. And I don't know. I still can't believe that it like was a thing.
Yeah.
I'm so amazed. But so recently, they told me that the show is launching in the summer. I'm not quite sure when,
2021.
but yes,
Okay.
this coming summer. And so I was like, oh, how am I going to keep this secret? Like, I want to tell everyone, I want to show everyone. And then beginning of March, I think it was like the 1st or 2nd of March, they announced it.
Yeah.
So I was able to finally like post about it and stuff. So that's been really exciting.
Girl,
Um,
when you showed the logo in your Instagram, I screamed. I was like holding the phone, like, no way! Oh my
when I saw the promotional photo, like with the actual characters on it, I just was like, they literally didn't change anything about the logo, which is like my favorite part, because I really do feel like I was like an active part in the project. Like
Yes.
I think the only thing that slightly changed was like the hue of the blue background. Because mine's my like original file is like a slightly like greener blue, and I think that's the only thing that changed. But it was just like it was such a cool experience, and I don't know, it's just wild. It's wild to like be able to like have that on my website. It feels really cool. So when that wrapped up, I finished I it was a very quick project. I started beginning of October and then ended like mid-November
Mm.
maybe. And a lot of that time was just waiting to hear back. So it was like when I would get an email back, they'd be like, okay, we need this by tomorrow.
Oh
Like
God.
very quick, very quick. So luckily I could put the red cap thing on pause, like
Mm.
while I was working on that. And then when I finished the Patrick thing, it was like mid to late November. And then I started red cap. Um, I did all the rest of my sketches in November, and then December, I from December, like beginning of December to I think Valentine's Day, I was just painting all the time. Just like I'm talking like a painting a day. It was crazy. Um, but it felt really cool because I got to just, focus in on what I was doing. And so now I think Red Cap is actually just starting to print the new cards and wrap
Mm.
and gift bags. And I'm not quite sure when those are coming out, but that's what I've been up to. And then now I'm talking to like
Cartoon
they
Network.
do. God, maybe someday. I was thinking Adult Swim would be amazing.
Oh my God.
Um, but now I'm talking to a company that does decor, like
Ooh.
bedding, rugs, stuff like that. So
Oh.
nothing's nailed down yet, but it's another dream thing. So I'm very excited about that.
As you should. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Listening to you and all of like the stories and the progress, it's like, holy fucking shit. Like she really, it's just like one little piece after another. And you're living so many people's dream. Like that's really
uh,
insane.
I think that the thing about it is it seems like a super glamorous, like magical thing, but and it is. The triumphs are definitely super magical, but I
Mhm.
think one thing that Instagram doesn't really show you is the depression, the crying, the anxiety, the struggle. Cause like you're not gonna post about bad shit that happens to you. You're just
No,
gonna post about good shit
of
because
course.
you want to look like you have it together. But I promise I don't have it together. So I don't know. Like it's definitely a very cool career, and I'm glad that I jumped into it. But I definitely like sometimes have a lot of lingering doubt about just like my path choice, and what's going to be in the future. Will I ever be irrelevant? Will my style ever get old? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's very scary stuff. But recently I started looking for reps, just because I would love for someone to take care of all the business stuff for me.
Oh, for sure.
I don't want to do that anymore. I get so anxious when I'm on the phone with people, and I I'm not so bad about talking about money, but I'm definitely like feeling like maybe a rep could get me more money on certain projects. And
Yes.
um I don't know. I just think it would be nice to have to only worry about doing the
Painting.
art. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
No,
it.
for
I just
sure.
want to do that. So yeah, I'm kind of on the fence about finding representation.
Mm,
Um but yeah.
my goodness. No, I don't blame you for wanting a rep. Like, I think when people think of like client work, they think of this magical utopia where all you do is paint every single day. And they don't realize that there's tons of emails and
Mhm.
like back and forth communication and paperwork and negotiations. And it's not super great, but it's so, oh my God, I'm so happy for all of your success. Like,
Thank you.
ah,
I
ah,
appreciate that.
living vicariously through your work. I'm really, really happy.
Aw, that's really sweet.
No, oh my God. So okay, so then I guess the last question I have for you is if you could talk to the people watching this interview, the high schoolers, the college students, the people who are about to make like this leap into their career, what would you say?
Mhm. Um, Realize that it's not instant, even though it might seem like it when you're following other artists that have already found their way.
Mm,
Um, there's a good chance that those artists maybe do have reps and they're finding jobs for them
mhm.
actively. Um, and also realize that a lot of people do not post about their struggles online. I think that people think that if you have a high follower count, it means that you make money or
Yes,
something.
yes,
Like I
yes.
actually recently watched a couple documentaries about influencers, and it's a very freaky lifestyle where like you can get free stuff, but it like realize that like you can't pay your bills with like a free vape or anything like that. Like somebody actually recently asked me if I wanted to try a free vape, and they were like, "We found your Instagram and we think you would be a great candidate for this." And I'm just
Oh,
like, what about my Instagram makes you think that I want a free vape? That I would
girl.
post about it for you? Is that what you're asking?
Girl, you, oh my God, the number of emails I get, especially for my YouTube channel, from the most random companies with the worst emails you've ever seen in your life, like chicken
Right.
scratch writing. Oh my, I
It's
know.
crazy. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. But yeah, I would say for new artists or people that are trying to break into the field, definitely realize that it takes a lot of time and effort and crying and struggle. Like it's not just like this easy thing that happens. Like you
No.
have to just constantly be on with it, and like always be willing to maybe sacrifice a little bit more than you think that you would. Like for example, I feel like when I was starting out, I would take small jobs that were not paying very well, but
Mm,
it was like the trade-off would be it's my work on a shirt, or it's my work on um I don't know, like some kind of product that I want to prove my work looks good on. I feel like when I first started, I was definitely taking like lower paying jobs just because first of all, they were the only jobs I was getting. It was great practice.
mhm.
And like I said, like I knew I wanted to break into the apparel industry.
Right.
And so any low paying job that included like a t-shirt, I wanted to learn how to create a screen printing file. I wanted to learn how to design with limited color palette on a shirt,
Hmm.
and like how could that design work on somebody's body kind of
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
So I definitely think that like taking smaller jobs in the beginning makes a lot of sense, especially if you're just starting out and you kind of want to show that you're capable of certain things. Um, like for example, I feel like once in a while I still take smaller jobs because I know that it will still show like my work on a new type of product. And
Yes.
I just because if let's say for example I designed a blanket or I don't know, sheets or something, and I designed that with a smaller company, those
Mhm.
bigger companies are now going to see what I'm capable of
Right. You've
and
proven yourself.
maybe, see my name attached to it, and it's kind of like an interesting like puzzle or something. Like how can I get from A to B but also learn in the middle
Mhm.
and get paid for it? It's it's very stressful, and honestly, I'm kind of not a fan of it, but um taking the smaller jobs, I mean, but I
Mm.
do think that it's necessary. I think at a certain point you can reach a level where you are only taking bigger jobs, but I definitely think the smaller ones help. Like it's almost like each thing that you do, it's like a new step on a
Yes.
staircase.
Everything has value. Um,
Exactly, yeah.
even if it kind of feels like I don't really want to, and it's so little money, but it always pays
Right.
off.
Yeah. And even if it's like a little bit more art designed than you would hope, it's still giving you it's still giving you experience with writing polite emails, being
Mm-hmm.
organized, keeping
Mm-hmm.
on task, like stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. It's you're always building some kind of skill with every job that you get, no matter how mundane it seems or irrelevant to like what you want to be doing. I feel like it's always like a positive thing. Mostly.
I think that's very good advice. I think there's like this
Yes.
weird tendency, like if I'm not graduating and getting this incredible gig, then I've totally failed. And also all of these small jobs are beneath me, but it's just
Mhm.
too many thoughts. Uh,
Mhm.
but girl, you just persevered. You're like, I will make these latte and I will go to work.
I think also I was just told so many times growing up, you can't do this, you can't do that. Like you will not be this, you will be that. And like I think that was a huge motivating factor for me is like all the people that like maybe didn't believe in me or maybe didn't see it as a decent career or something like that. And I do think that it takes a really long time, but like you just have to stay positive with it and like if you keep going, it probably will pay off.
Yes.
And I mean, like I don't want to say you're guaranteed that it'll pay off, but
No, no, no. Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
you want to keep rolling with the positivity.
That's awesome. Oh, and
Yeah.
that's such a good kind of like closing line. Stay being positive and then
Yeah.
things will work out. Well, thank you so much for this incredible interview. I love hearing everything about your work and like all your little steps and your stories. So thank you. And to anyone watching, how can they find you?
You can go to my website, kristaperry.com, which I recently got the domain for. I was so excited. And then on Instagram, I'm at Krista Pelly. And I think that's it. Yeah.
That's good. Instagram, website, solid.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So thank you very much. And this concludes the interview.